You're becoming demented and crazy. You need to be institutionalized." My own son, Daniel's words echoed in my head, cutting deeper than any blade. I, Chloe, at 72 years old, never imagined that the man I raised with so much love and sacrifice would be capable of such cruelty. But the sharpest pain was yet to come. He called the police on me. Yes, the police. To the home I built. To the life I dedicated to him. If you've ever felt the betrayal of someone you love, if your world has ever been turned upside down by an injustice, then you'll understand the roller coaster of emotions that consumed me that day. Like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the outcome of this story that will make you question everything about family ties and the true meaning of love and loyalty. It was a gray Tuesday in my cozy home in Maplewood, New Jersey. Autumn was already painting the trees with fiery hues, but inside me, winter seemed to have arrived suddenly. Daniel, my only son, stood before me, his eyes cold, his voice filled with an authority that never belonged to him. He spoke of my well-being, of my mental health, but I saw greed dancing in his eyes. He wanted the house. He wanted control. He wanted to cast me aside like old, useless furniture. I watched him, my heart in pieces, as he dialed the emergency number. "Yes, officer. My mother, Chloe Miller, is showing signs of severe dementia. She's aggressive and needs immediate psychiatric assistance." Each word was a brick in the wall he was building between us. But he didn't know that behind my apparent fragility, I held a secret. A secret that, when revealed, would make his world crumble. My life was never easy, but it was always full of purpose. Since my husband Robert passed away 15 years ago, I dedicated myself to maintaining our family's legacy, and above all, to caring for Daniel. Robert was a good man, a Vietnam War veteran who came home and built a modest but dignified life as a mechanic in a small shop in Newark. Together, we saved every penny to buy our house in Maplewood, a quiet neighborhood with good schools, where Daniel could grow up and have all the opportunities we didn't have. I worked as an elementary school teacher for over 30 years at the local public school, Maplewood Elementary. I taught hundreds of children to read and write, and I was always proud to shape young minds. But my biggest project, my greatest passion, was always Daniel. I remember the nights I stayed awake, grading papers and preparing lessons, while he slept peacefully in his room. The summers we spent at the public library, encouraging him to read, to dream, to explore the world through books. When Daniel decided to go to college, choosing a state university to study business administration, I was overjoyed. We didn't have much money, but I took on odd jobs, sold some family jewelry, and he got a partial scholarship. I wanted him to have the best, to reach his full potential. He graduated, got a good job at a marketing company in New York, and for a while, everything seemed perfect. He came home on weekends. We talked on the phone almost every day. I was the proud mother, the grandmother eagerly awaiting grandchildren. But in recent years, something changed. Daniel started visiting less frequently. His calls became shorter, and he always seemed to be in a hurry. Conversations increasingly turned to my finances, to the necessity of me selling the house and moving to a smaller, more suitable place for seniors. He spoke of future planning, but I smelled ambition, impatience. He wanted the house, the assets that Robert and I built with so much sweat. And now he was willing to label me demented to get what he wanted. The tension had been building for months. It started with subtle suggestions about how I should manage my finances. "Mom, you don't need such a big car. A smaller model would be more practical for you." Then, the concerns about my health. "You're forgetting things, Mom. Maybe it's good to get some tests done." I knew he was planting seeds, not of genuine concern, but of doubt about my capability. The last straw was last week. I was organizing some old boxes in the attic, full of Robert's keepsakes, when Daniel showed up unannounced. He started rummaging through my things, claiming he was helping to organize. I found him with Robert's and my wedding photo album in his hands, and he was looking at the photos with an expression of disdain. "Mom, why do you keep so much junk? It just collects dust. We need to get rid of all this so you can have a more clean and modern space." I tried to argue, to explain that those were my memories, my history, but he wouldn't listen. "You're getting too nostalgic, Mom. That's not healthy. You need to live in the present." It was then that he saw the mahogany box Robert had given me. A simple box, but it held some of my most precious memories. He tried to open it, but it was locked. "What's in here, Mom?" "A secret?" He laughed, a laugh that sent chills down my spine. I stopped him, taking the box from his hand. "No, Daniel. This is mine. It's personal." The anger in his eyes was instantaneous. "Are you hiding things from me, Mom? I'm your son. I have the right to know what you're doing with the family's assets." The argument quickly escalated. He accused me of being stubborn, of losing my mind, of being a burden. And then came the threat. If you don't cooperate, Mom, I'll be forced to take more drastic measures to ensure your well-being. I knew what he meant. He wanted to institutionalize me, to take me out of my home, out of my life. And now, here we are. The doorbell rang. 2 Maplewood police officers were at my door, with serious expressions. Daniel stood beside them with a contained smile of victory. Officers, thank you for coming. My mother is a little confused. She needs help. I faced him, my heart pounding. But my mind was clear. I had a plan. And the central piece of that plan was hidden in a place he would never imagine. The 2 Maplewood officers, a man and a woman, stood at my door. Their professional gazes swept the room, assessing the situation. Daniel, with an air of forced concern, hastened to speak. Officers, as I mentioned on the phone, my mother, Chloe Miller, has been exhibiting erratic behavior. She is refusing to cooperate with the care plan I've established for her own good. I believe she is suffering from dementia and needs a psychiatric evaluation. The older officer, with a badge that read Sergeant Miller, looked at me with a cautious expression. Mrs. Miller, your son informed us that there are concerns about your ability to care for yourself. We'd like to speak with you to understand the situation. I took a deep breath, feeling adrenaline rush through my veins. This was the moment. Sergeant, I appreciate your concern, but I assure you I am perfectly lucid, I replied, my voice firm without a trace of tremor. However, my son has a very particular version of events. Unfortunately, I have something that can clarify everything. Daniel looked at me, surprised, with a glint of panic in his eyes. He didn't expect this calm. I walked to the living room bookshelf, where beneath some of Robert's old books, I had hidden a shoebox. Daniel watched my every move, his brow furrowed. From it, I pulled out a VHS tape, an almost obsolete object these days, but one that held an undeniable truth. Sergeant, before any evaluation, I ask that you watch this. It's a recording my late husband Robert made some years ago. He had a habit of documenting important moments of our family life. Daniel, visibly nervous, tried to intervene. Mom, what is this? There's no need to bother the officers with your old family tapes. This has nothing to do with the situation. The sergeant, however, had already taken the tape. Mr. Miller, let's see what your mother has to show us. It's standard procedure. The younger officer, with a more empathetic look, was already connecting a small portable VHS player they carried for situations like this. Daniel's face, at that moment, began to lose its color. The small screen of the VHS player came to life, displaying the grainy image of a living room I immediately recognized. My living room, about 5 years ago. Robert, my dear Robert, was sitting on the couch with a gentle smile. Hello, Chloe, he said on the recording, looking directly at the camera. If you're watching this, it means I'm no longer here, and that Daniel is probably trying to pull something. Daniel gasped, his eyes fixed on the screen. The officers, initially skeptical, were now completely absorbed. The recording continued. Robert explained that in the last years of his life, he had noticed a disturbing change in Daniel's behavior. He started asking too many questions about our finances, about the house. He told me I should plan for the future and simplify Chloe's life after I was gone. But his tone, it wasn't concern, Chloe. It was interest. The tape then showed Robert installing small, discreet cameras and microphones around the house. I know this sounds crazy, he confessed on the recording with a sigh, but I had to be sure. And unfortunately, my suspicions were confirmed. The scene shifted to a series of short clips, dated from different moments over the past few years. In the first clip, Daniel was on the phone, talking to someone he called his lawyer. Yes, the house is the main asset. My mother is getting old, and with her dementia, it will be easy to get power of attorney. Then, I can sell it, and she can go to a cheaper nursing home. In the second, he was talking to a woman, probably his wife, about how to speed up the process of convincing me to sell the house. She's stubborn, but with a little pressure and a doctor's help, we can do it. The final clip was the most devastating. Daniel was in the kitchen, talking to the same woman. She's a burden, dead weight. All she does is spend money and live in the past. I need this house for my future, for our future. She won't stop me. Robert's voice on the recording then returned. Chloe, my dear, I know this is painful, but I love you, and I protected you. This house is yours, and Daniel has no right to take it from you. He has no right to call you demented. He's the one who needs to be institutionalized, but in a prison, for greed and manipulation. Daniel's face was as white as a hospital wall, just as the thumbnail phrase had promised. He stumbled backward, his eyes wide, his mouth open but soundless. The silence in the room was deafening, broken only by the hum of the VHS player. Daniel was in shock, paralyzed. The officers, on the other hand, wore expressions of pure indignation. Sergeant Miller turned off the device and looked at Daniel with chilling coldness. "Mr. Miller, what we just witnessed is a clear confession of manipulation, fraud, and potentially elder abuse. This is a serious crime." The younger officer was already jotting everything down in her notepad, with a look of disapproval that Daniel couldn't ignore. I can explain," Daniel stammered, finally finding his voice, but it came out weak and trembling. "This is a misunderstanding. My father, he was senile when he recorded this. He didn't know what he was doing." The sergeant crossed his arms. "Mr. Miller, the recording shows your father installing the cameras and microphones with complete lucidity, explaining his reasons coherently. And the dates of the clips with your voice are recent. There are no signs of senility. There are, however, signs of a premeditated plan to take advantage of your mother." I, Chloe, felt a bittersweet mix of relief and sadness. Relief at being vindicated, at having the truth exposed, but a deep sadness at seeing my son, the boy I loved and raised, revealed as a monster of greed. The tears I had held back for so long finally streamed down my face, but this time they were not of pain, but of a painful liberation. "Mr. Miller," the sergeant continued, his voice now more severe, "you are under arrest for suspicion of fraud and elder abuse. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, one will be provided for you." Daniel tried to protest, but it was in vain. The officers handcuffed him, and he gave me a look of pure hatred, but also of despair. "You'll regret this, Mom. You don't know what you're doing." I just stared at him, my heart heavy, but my conscience clear. I knew exactly what I was doing, protecting myself and Robert's memory. As he was led out of my house, the silence that followed was no longer one of tension, but of a newfound peace. After the officers took Daniel away, a deep and strange silence hung over the house. It wasn't the tense and oppressive silence of the past few months, but a silence of liberation, almost sacred. I sat on the sofa, exhausted, but with a feeling of weight being lifted from my shoulders. The tears that came now were different, not of pain, but of deep relief and sadness for a son I barely recognized. The younger officer, whose name was Sarah, sat beside me. "Mrs. Miller, I'm so sorry you went through this. What your husband did was very brave." She handed me a tissue and a glass of water. "We need your formal statement at the precinct, but it doesn't have to be now. We can schedule it for tomorrow. And please, consider a restraining order against your son. From what we saw, he might try to retaliate." I nodded. The thought of Daniel coming after me again sent shivers down my spine. "Thank you, Sarah. I just need a moment." She and Sergeant Miller left me with the promise that they would return the next day. That night, for the first time in a long time, I slept soundly. The weight of Daniel's manipulation, the constant vigilance, and the anxiety of being exposed by him, all of it had disappeared. I woke up the next morning with the spring sun streaming through the window, and a feeling of renewal. I called my friend Eleanor, who lived in New Haven, Connecticut. She had always been my confidant, and patiently listened to all my concerns about Daniel. "Chloe, thank goodness you called. I was so worried. I saw the news about Daniel." "Is it true?" I told her the details, and she was shocked, but also proud of my strength. "You did the right thing, Chloe. Robert would be proud." In the following days, the legal process began. With Robert's recording and my testimony, the case against Daniel was solid. The Maplewood community, which had always known me as Teacher Chloe, was shocked. Many neighbors and former students came to offer support, bringing food, flowers, and words of comfort. It was a reminder that, despite Daniel's betrayal, I was not alone. I had a support network that he could never destroy. Daniel's trial was a painful but necessary process. He tried to plead temporary insanity, that he was under stress, that the tape was fabricated. But the evidence was overwhelming. Robert's recording, the dates of the clips, the cold calculation in his voice as he planned to strip me of everything. The jury took only a few hours to reach a verdict. Guilty. Daniel was convicted of fraud and elder abuse, receiving a prison sentence and a substantial fine. The house, my home, was legally confirmed as my exclusive property, and a permanent restraining order was issued, prohibiting Daniel from approaching me or my residence. The revenge, as Daniel would call it, was not mine. It was justice. The justice that Robert, even from beyond, had secured for me. In the following months, I began to rebuild my life. The house, which once felt like a battlefield, was now a sanctuary of peace. I reconnected with old friends, started attending a book club at the local library, and even enrolled in a community gardening class. My hands, which once trembled with anxiety, now found joy in tending my rose bushes. Robert's story and the VHS tape became a local legend. Many told me that his courage in foreseeing and documenting Daniel's betrayal was a testament to true love. I, Chloe, became a symbol of resilience, a woman who, at 72, refused to be silenced or discarded. One day, I received a letter from Daniel's wife. She apologized, saying she had been manipulated by him and had no idea of the extent of his plans. She also informed me that she had divorced him and was trying to restart her life. I didn't reply to the letter, but I felt a pang of pity for her. Daniel had left a trail of destruction wherever he went. The house, the same house Daniel coveted, became a center of happy memories. I filled it with the laughter of friends, the smell of freshly baked apple pies, and the peace that only truth can bring. I didn't have biological grandchildren, but the children of my friends and neighbors came to visit, and I taught them to read, to tell stories, to dream. I was Grandma Chloe to many, and that brought me immense joy. 5 years have passed since that fateful day. I, Chloe, now 77 years old, continue to live in my home in Maplewood, surrounded by my memories, my books, and the affection of a community that embraced me. Daniel's story became a lesson, a grim reminder of how greed can corrupt the most sacred bonds. But for me, it was also a catalyst for a new phase of life, a phase of self-discovery and empowerment. I learned that true inheritance is not material. It's not the walls of a house, nor the money in a bank account. True inheritance is the values we pass on, the love we cultivate, and the integrity we maintain, even in the face of the greatest adversities. Robert, my beloved Robert, left me the greatest inheritance of all, the truth and the courage to defend it. Today, when I look at my blooming garden, at Robert's photos, and at the smiles of my adopted grandchildren, I feel immense gratitude. The pain of Daniel's betrayal still exists, like an old scar, but it doesn't define who I am. I am Chloe Miller, a woman who loved, lost, fought, and won. A woman who, even at 77, still has much to live and teach. If you, like me, have ever faced a situation where trust was broken and justice seemed distant, remember, truth always finds a way. And love, true love, is the most powerful force that exists. It protects us, guides us, and gives us the courage to face any challenge. Thank you for listening to my story. If it touched your heart, if you identified with my journey, please leave your comment below. Share your own experiences, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more stories of overcoming and resilience. Together, we can show that dignity and character always prevail.